Thank you, Lilian, and thank you to President's Institute for inviting me today, even though I'm not a president. But then again, with a room full of presidents, there should be room for at least one prime minister. There's one president missing, though, President Bill Clinton. He should be on his way. His plane will be landing shortly, as I understand. 48 years ago, another landing took place, an important one. On this day, exactly 48 years ago, the command module of the Apollo 13 returned to Earth after a failed mission to the moon. Most of you know the story. Houston, we have a problem. What had started out as a great aspiration ended up as a rescue mission, and luckily a successful one. I'm sure a lot of inspiring leadership points can be made from this mission and the way it turned out. But to me, the most inspiring thing about the Apollo 13 is the Apollo 14. Because less than a year after the failure of Apollo 13, the Apollo 14 landed safely on the moon. Instead of doing the easy thing and shut down the program, visionary leaders faced the problems, improved the program, and took the next step forward. When I look at the world today, from my perspective being a Danish Prime Minister, I think we could learn a lot from that approach. Over the last decades, we have managed to make the world a better place. Globalization is at its peak, making it possible for new ideas to flourish and for inventions to make a global difference. Since 1990, infant mortality has been reduced by more than 40% worldwide. The number of people living in extreme poverty has been reduced by more than 1 billion people. Child marriage rates are falling. Life expectancy is increasing, and literacy rates have never been higher. To me, there's no doubt that technology, free trade, and globalization have made the world a better place for the vast majority of people around the world. For the vast majority, yes. But we, who are, I guess, in favor of globalization, must admit that a fair share of people in the Western world do not share our excitement. They feel worse off because of global dynamics. To them, development equals insecurity, competition equals problems, and the future itself equals a constant fight to keep up with the rest. I was personally reminded of this a while ago at two separate occasions. Some of you have heard the story before, and I apologize for that. The first occasion took place in my own living room. My oldest son, Bergur, had just graduated from Copenhagen Business School in international business. And to celebrate, he invited some of his fellow students for dinner in our apartment. And I was, of course, appointed head chef for the evening. And while I was cooking and serving food and drinks for the guests, I couldn't help noticing their optimism. None of them feared the future. They were full of dreams and ambitions. They were even speaking English all night, although only one was not a Dane. And he was actually able to speak Danish, by the way. Some days later, I was biking with a group of kids who have suffered many defeats in life and in school, left with nowhere to go. They were talking about the future as well. One had just received his first good grade ever. And these boys, I hardly dare to tell it, but it was in the Løkke Foundation. They had dreams as well, but they far too often turn into dead ends or even nightmares because of difficulties in schools or at home. And, ladies and gentlemen, if we turn our backs on such kids, if we close our eyes to the flip side of globalization, we are not only compromising our moral obligations as leaders and humans, we are also losing or risk losing support for free trade, international cooperation, and perhaps even liberal democracy. In my opinion, we all need to be aware of this danger. And all leaders at all levels are responsible for dealing with it. Because if free trade becomes less free, if international cooperation fails, if our liberal societies erode, we will all be affected. The good news is that we can in fact make a better world if we decide to do so and if we learn from the past. And I think we should do. I think we should do so. And I think we should handle the challenges we face like they did on the Apollo program 48 years ago. Instead of tearing down the institutions, agreements, and societies we have built, we should start improving them. It can be done. And I think Denmark and the rest of the Nordic countries are living proof of exactly that. Back in time, Denmark was an absolute monarchy. One king dictated everything. But 150 years ago, people gathered in the streets of Copenhagen and then marched towards the king's palace. They declared that the times of absolutism was over. Denmark was to become a free and democratic country. And surprisingly, the king agreed. Revolution was a fact, the most peaceful ever, probably. Today, this way of caring about the future of our society and finding peaceful solutions is still a part of our DNA. Within the last century, we have built a welfare state. Yes, we pay high taxes, but we get something in return. Free education, free hospital care, a helping hand when we get old or if we lose our job. For more than a century, employers and unions have solved labor market issues together. Most often, with a responsible perspective on both sides, creating a flexible labor market where employers are able to reallocate resources and employees are provided with a fair degree of security. And let's hope that today will be yet another proof of this. And despite one of the most digitized countries in the world, we still insist that people come first and that human trust is one of the most important values of all. And to me, this approach is the way forward. True leadership is not only about making the most fortunate able to perform, it is also about providing everyone with a fair chance. True leadership is not about putting your company first. It's about adding value to the world in which you operate. And true leadership is definitely not a matter of only putting your country first. It is about being part of something bigger. And that goes for all kinds of presidents. Today, tomorrow, in space and on Earth. And with these words, welcome to Copenhagen, welcome to this great conference. I hope you will enjoy your stay and will stay focused on how we can create a better world for all. Thank you very much.